Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's King's Local Schools public meeting for the Board of Education to order. Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff,
Here.
Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skrull,
Here.
Mr. Belfrom.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America.
Stands one nation under God,
Indivisible.
liberty and justice. I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Tomorrow.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on our agenda are the reports and presentations. We'll begin with our raise presentation. I see the ladies in the back.
Hi, girl. Thanks, Frank. Yeah. You want to go ahead and start? Okay.
You start. Could you go back one? I always say I see the ladies in the back, but just for everyone watching, Grace and Faith Lynn, who have been coming consistently, and they do an awesome job. So now I'll say ladies. Please
Thanks.
go ahead.
Our outstanding artists, Dominic Rosiak, Maximo Aspahenko, Evan West, Franklin Demiquez Davis, Liam Dooley, Colin Hunter, Alex Schmidt, Aspen Goodwin, Lauren Galletti, Norris Bellick, Reese Wagner, Brittany Gause, Elle Linehan, and Alexis Steerwall and Grant Arneson are all invited to the Business Professionals of America Nationals in Anaheim, California. Miss Guilfoyle's drawing students created a book with Miss Schumann's second grade class from Cami. The second graders wrote the book entitled What We Find in Nature, and it was illustrated by the KHS drawing students. The National Art Honor Society held a special daytime art event for some of the students at the junior high and high school on March 15th. The theme was superheroes. The students made a Captain America shield, a mask, and a Batman watercolor painted skyline. The KHS and KJH staff are invited to come relax and paint at the painting workshop on April 11th. King's families and students are able to come for a free family art night tomorrow, March 22nd at the high school.
Music. The King's Choir Department had a collaboration concert on March 11th with the choirs from Waynedale High School. Waynedale's choirs are under the direction of Danny Mylott, who is the former choir student teacher from the 2020 to 2021 school year.
National Honor Society. National Honor Society partnered up with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. From February 1st to March 25th, the LLS team will be trying to raise $30,000. Please visit the Instagram page Knights Against Cancer to stay updated on the events. On Friday, March 3rd, NHS began their second inaugural dodgeball tournament after school. The final 4 teams competed for their trophy on Friday, March 17th. They raised $500 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Congratulations to one of the NHS secretaries, Kanushi, for being a semifinalist for the National Honor Society Scholarship. She was chosen among thousands of applicants from across the US.
Clubs. French Club is learning about Impressionism and will paint in Impressionist style painting. Spanish Club started making piñatas last week, and they will be able to decorate them at their next meeting and then break them at their final meeting, which is a lot of fun. Miss Isaacs and Mrs. Patterson surprised their KHS book club with a Google Meet visit from the author of the book they just finished reading. Kirsten Modglin, author of Widow Falls, chatted with the book club members last Wednesday. Throughout the meeting, Modglin shared aspects of her planning process for a new novel, writing tactics for making sure dialogue is realistic, her background and inspiration for new plot lines and twists, and she even had the club share their dream cast for characters in her novel. What a really good experience.
Athletics. The Lady Knights basketball team had an awesome season. They finished with a record of 22-6. The men's Knights basketball team have also finished for the season and went 18-6 and were ECC co-champs. The boys bowling team finished their season with a record of 13-7, and the girls finished with a record of 14-6. The swim team competed at the state meet in Canton on February 24th and 25th. The team consisted of Will Ballard, Seth Broadwick, Tyler Sukovecki, Ethan Lemer, Cooper Tinsley, Ashley Bender, Samantha Crum, Katie Gibson, Faith Radowski, Melanie Schweiker, and Maya Schweiker. Overall finishes for the team. Maya placed 5th in the 100 back and 6th in the 100 fly. Faith placed 9th in the 100 free. The girls medley, 200 medley relay, and the 400 freestyle relay placed 10th. Both girls and boys placed 13th in the 200 freestyle relay. The Kings wrestling team finished for the season and overall did an awesome job. The Kings gymnastics team also finished their season. Shout out to Victoria Nadram for earning 6th place all around vault and floor. The academic team finished their season with a record of 6-10, and then the dance team performed at nationals in Orlando and qualified for game day finals. What a firecracker. Ella Roundtree, a freshman at KHS, just finished her career as a Kings firecracker this past weekend, where the team performed at the halftime show at the Chicago Bulls. The firecrackers started almost 30 years ago when retired Kings PE teacher Lynn Kelly found some dusty old jump ropes in a closet. Slowly but surely, an incredible program was born. Firecrackers are normally grades 3 through 8, but a few freshmen have been invited back, which is the case for Miss Ella. When asked about her favorite memories, Ella said that she really enjoyed traveling, especially to the Army-Navy game and to Chicago. This season, the Firecrackers have performed more than 30 times at high schools and colleges, as well as for the Chicago Bulls, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Indiana Pacers. Fun fact, a documentary and feature film are in the works. They were named Best Act of 2022 by Game Up, and their #1 fan is King's Assistant Superintendent Tim Spinner. Congrats, Ella, on a wonderful season and career. A little like off the script. I personally came back for my freshman year, just like Ella did, and I got the pleasure to jump with Ella, and she's really just like an awesome girl to talk to, really down to earth. And so if you ever get the chance to talk to her, you'll enjoy it.
Ella's here tonight in the back, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ella.
AME and KHS partnership celebrating Black voices in literature. KME and KHS partnered up to celebrate and honor Black History Month. Each partnership read, interacted with, and designed a door to honor Black lives in literature through authors, illustrators, historical figures, and or characters.
The Seal by Literacy. The Seal by Literacy test will be offered next month to juniors and seniors wishing to prove biliteracy in their chosen second language. So far, since the beginning of our program 3 years ago, 51 different students in our district have earned the seal of biliteracy. 2 King students have earned the seals in multiple languages, and they are among only a handful of students in the entire state of Ohio to achieve this accomplishment. Our triliterate students are Angela de Jesus da Silva, class of 2022 in Portuguese and Spanish, and then Masha Ivanova in the class of 2023 with Russian and Spanish. Thank you.
And next, I will pass it to Mrs. Gould for the presentation of Queen Stage Lighters.
Good evening. Can you able to hear me?
It's a pleasure to have Janet King here tonight. She is a member of the King Stage Lighters, and she's here to highlight month being Theater in Schools Month. So Janet, take it away. I'm going to go put it.
Okay, thank you. Before she's getting that up, I'll go ahead and say thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you about the value of theater in our schools and introduce the King Stage Lighters to you. As she said, my name is Janet Keene. I am one of the founding members and current treasurer of the organization, and I'm joined this evening by Mary Reese, Michael Keene, and Lori Dahlmeyer. Okay. March is the official Theater in Our Schools month. Theaters in Our School is a celebration of theater in our schools and schools in our theaters, sponsored by the American Alliance for Theater and Education and the Educational Theater Association, known as EDTA. And actually, if you're not aware of it, EDTA is actually based in Cincinnati. They're a national organization and support theater educators across the country. And we actually have a King's alumni that is working for this organization now, which is was a fun fact for me to find out. Also, the goals of theater in our schools are to raise public awareness of the impact of theater education and draw attention to the need of more access to quality programs in and out of schools for all students. EDTA has identified 10 skills that every theater student learns: critically think and problem solve artistic, academic, and life challenges in both conventional and unconventional ways, communicate in a variety of playmaking contexts to convey their own ideas and to interpret the ideas of others, collaborate to cultivate diverse ideas, solutions, and common goals, both on stage and backstage. And you'll see this example when you see actors that are working on a scene together or actors working with light or sound techs in the back of an auditorium. A lot of collaboration going on in theater. Create personally meaningful theatrical stories generated from a range of sources and ideas, and innovate and investigate through different approaches to traditional ideas to create new understanding of existing artistic work, historical facts, and cultural norms. Every King's student, actually, as they go through their 4 years, get a prime experience of that when they do a Shakespeare play. It's an old traditional story that everyone knows, but Pete Moore always gives it a contemporary twist to make sure current students understand the older stories. It's really a fun experience for everyone. Evaluate information to reflect on its personal and artistic value, adapt to changing circumstances in a variety of artistic and personal situations. Actors have to think on their feet when someone misses a cue or they forget their lines. They have to adapt. Self-direct to manage their own learning goals and improve as theatrical artists. Could also consider this time management, as they have to learn their lines and be off book on certain deadlines because everyone else depends on them. Empathize with peers to build respectful and effective social and cultural diverse teams working towards a common goal. It's much like a sport in that everyone in the cast is like a team and everyone's trying to do their personal best for the win for the whole team. So it's very similar. Lead to build trust, demonstrate integrity, and inspire others to model ethical behavior that benefits their school and broader community. We'll see this every year in upperclassmen who welcome new members and to show them the ropes of what they do in the King's traditions, or their secret King's traditions that they pass on from year to year. And no one's supposed to know what those things are. And also high school students who step up and help maybe cast in crew or as crew for junior high productions or with Columbia productions. At King's, theater is mostly common in after-school programs. However, theater does consist in the classroom, although it may not be called theater. Dramatic enactments of scientific concepts allow elementary students to connect to science, learning through movement, language, social interaction, and collaboration. And what we have here is some pictures of first grade wax animal museum. Okay. Applied theater techniques in the classroom increase students' self-esteem and develop their ability to empathize with others. There's a classroom example of dress up as career day, as well as dress like a book character. Again, they're telling stories through costume and acting out other things. Okay, fourth grade students whose language arts and social studies curricula integrated theater into their classes are almost 100% more likely to pass a state-based language arts test. And here's a couple of examples of theater at work in the classroom. Okay, at King's, after-school theater opportunities begin at Columbia with everyone's favorite, putting on the hits. Actually, this year, over 80 students participated in the event. And it's one event that students look forward to all year long. And it's often the first time a King student steps on the King stage. And it's often the time that they decide they want to be more involved. There's just a little fun fact there, thanks to EDTA again, that at-risk middle school children engaged in after-school musical theater program demonstrate improved confidence, creativity, resilience, responsibility, collaboration, and a sense of community. Next, I wanted to point out Little Nights on Broadway musical theater camp. It's presented by the King Stage Lighters for kids that have completed K through 6th grades. And actually our theater alums serve as counselors and current high school students serve as assistants. So they kind of keep everything moving and again, really good positive influence. We started this program in 2019 with 20 kids. Last year we had 40 kids and we've already started our registration and we already have 21 kids. So we're pretty confident we may hit 50 this year. So we're very excited about that. Also, we are very fortunate to have dedicated staff to direct the junior high and high school shows. And they've been able to build a kind of a season so they can promote everything all together. The main season consists of 2 high school shows, a junior high musical on the main stage. And then we have a night of short scenes, which is a very unique experience or production, and that junior high students perform short scenes that are actually directed by high school kids. So they have a very strong opportunity to work together. And it's also kind of nice when the junior high kids come up to the high school, they already know some of the theater kids. So that's been a very good experience for everyone. Actually, this year, over 300 students will participate in extracurricular theater opportunities. That includes cast, crew, and orchestra. And a thought to summarize King Theater program, the true purpose of arts education is not necessarily to create more professional dancers or artists. It's to create more complete human beings who are critical thinkers, who have curious minds and can lead productive lives. Right. The next portion is about the Stage Lighters. I just kind of give you an overview of what we're about. I think most people have heard of us, but they may not really understand what we do. The organization began in the fall of 2008 by a group of parents that recognized King's Theater program needed support. Faculty had little support in preparation for the shows and with the front of house activities during the show. District funds to support theater program are limited to supplementals for directors and staff. Each production has unique budget to cover expenses and are dependent solely on ticket sales, which is not unusual because most high school theater programs rely totally on box office revenue to support their activities. What we did find at that time was poor attendance from students and community resulted in declining ticket sales, which obviously generated, less and less revenue every year. And it's hard to be creative when you're declining funds. The the mission of the King Stage Lighters is very simple. There's things we do and there's things that we don't do. We do support public publicity and public relations to generate ticket sales, which increase the program budgets. We recruit volunteers to assist with front of house activities during the show week. That includes cast meals, concessions, stargrams, ushers, ticket sales. And then we also do fundraising to purchase much needed supplies and equipment for sound, lighting, stage, storage to improve the theater experience for students and community. Again, these are things that no one of those production budgets can cover. Okay, things we don't do, we don't interfere with the creative decisions that are made by faculty in any production, including show selection or casting. We don't provide funds or compensation for faculty or staff. And we don't provide funds for permanent improvements in the stage or auditorium that are considered capital expenditures because they're used by the entire district for non-theater events. As I said, fundraising is a very big thing for us. And this is kind of just where we do our fundraising. 40% of what we do is the season and production patrons, which are basically ads, either call outs from families or businesses, and they're always identified in the programs and on the pre-show slide. So we try to promote those people that support us. 24% comes from concession and stargrams. Those are the front of the house activities before the show and intermission. 13% special event fundraisers. This is kind of like the all other category. We've done pampered chef parties. We've done student talent shows. We've recently taken on Working at Kings Island, where we show up to do the work and they pay the organization. So that's kind of a nice little fit. 12% the Little Knights Theater Camp, and 12% I think is a pretty good percentage for only doing that since 2019. So that's been a really good fundraiser for us. 10% donations and 1% Amazon Smile online shopping. You might ask, what do you do with all this money? Well, we have, since the spring of 2009, we have contributed over $98,000 to King's Theater program. We're really close to that big hurdle. So we're going to get there soon. But the biggest portion of what we have done so far, 32% is equipment for sound and lighting, 23% for show programs. We try to produce a high quality show playbill, if you will, with professional headshots, student bios, which makes a nice keepsake for the students and people that come to the shows. 15% equipment, stage storage, 10% publicity, 10% scholarship, and then other cast meals and other support. And then of that 32%, which was the sound, go ahead to the next. There we go. $31,000 we've spent on sound equipment and light equipment. For example, we've bought 13 Sennheiser wireless microphone systems, 27 earphone microphone headsets. You have to replace the headsets a little more frequently. They're more delicate and they're student handled, so they have to be replaced a little more often. We also have purchased an intercom system, which allows students in the backstage to communicate with students at the light and sound board, and also communicate with the front of house to say, okay, everybody's seated, close the doors, let's go, start the show. In addition to the sound, we've bought lighting equipment, and we're really proud of this. We've bought 10 Source 4 ellipsoidal fixtures, 10 new LED lights, and a spotlight. And that purchase alone, those new figures, will save the theater budgets over $1,000 a year in rentals. So now it's theirs, and they can put them up as they're ready, rather than the week of the show and they stay up late at night hanging lights. That $14,000 we've spent on stage and storage equipment. Over to the left, we have flip forums, which are a versatile, lightweight, multi-position platform with wheels that can be used on stage or in the classroom. The bottom picture is actually a picture of this last fall production where they were used on stage. And also Mr. Moore does use those in his theater arts class for a stage. So they're very flexible and move around. The cyclorama, also known as a cyc, is a white muslin backdrop, and it's the largest piece of scenery. Light is projected onto that flat surface to create multiple scenes, moments, and places. And the pictures show, not this fall, the year before the fall show, where it took over a year's worth of time, and you can show the different seasons with just different lights against the white background. So they can do a lot of creative things with that. And then over to the right, it's really more hodgepodge things that were needed. If you buy equipment, you got to have a place to store them in a secure place. So we have lock cabinets, open shelving, clothing racks, saws, drills, ladders, chairs for the light and sound board, lights for the orchestra pit. And we just purchased a new system of pipes and drapes, which we'll probably put to use in future black box productions. And then over to the lower right corner, there's a curtain, because in 2016, we came to administration with some needs for the auditorium. And they worked with us. They put in a new sound system and also bought a new proscenium travelers curtains, which are the main curtains. But they asked us if we would pay for the valance or header above, and we did that. So we contributed a little teamwork there to get an improvement. Then next, we've spent $33,000 on publicity and public relations. We buy yard signs for every show to put out in the community so people know where what the show is, where and when. We've purchased a digital display in the lobby, which promotes the show during weeks of the, actually with the band and choir helped contribute to that. So they actually is more of a performing arts promotional tool for us. We build senior posters for all the high school shows, which those are put up in the lobby to help promote the show. Again, those are the professional headshots that we take or have taken. And then the different playbills. And let's put some examples there just so you can see that we do try to make them high quality. Okay, next is we have awarded $10,000 in scholarships. We give $1,000 a scholarship each year to a graduating senior that participated in the theater program. Student does not have to be pursuing the degree in performing arts. The application is pretty simple. 3 of the primary questions are, what have you gained from being involved in the program? What have you given back? And what have you learned that from being involved in the program that can be applied to your future career path? So again, that's any career path. And that's kind of going back to some of those skills that we talked about in the very first portion of the presentation. We started this scholarship in 2014. In 2016, the Dahlmeyer family gave a very generous gift from the Kaylin Dahlmeyer Memorial Fund. Excuse me, I do that all the time. But from that fund, and we renamed the scholarship in Kaylin's honor. And there's a picture of Amanda Woosley accepting the scholarship last year. Next up, on the King stage will be a production of The Music Man. It's a classic musical. It will be on the stage April 27th, 28th, and 29th. And we're very excited about this production. Over 70 students will participate in this high school show on the main stage, 30 high school actors, 10 junior high actors, 20 orchestra members, and at least 10 high school crew members. So we're very excited, and that we hope that we want to invite you all to come join us. Love to see you at the show. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to run, but we have a stage writers meeting. Thank you very
Very
much.
good. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda for this evening is the transportation proposal. Mr. Sears?
Yep. Mr. Buffum, before I get to the transportation proposal, I just have one thing to add, that not only is March the theater in school month, it's also the music in our schools month. And the purpose of this month is to the designation is to raise awareness of the importance of music education for all of our children, and to remind citizens that schools where all children should have access to music. We're very blessed in Kings to have a very robust musical program from a K-12 experience with lots of different offerings. And we've been designated a best community for music education for the past 6 years in a row. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Gould. She's going to show a very quick video that highlights some of the accomplishments of our music programs.
The Kings Local School District is proud to have been named a 2022 Best Community for Music Education by the National Association of Music Merchants for our commitment to music education. We are one of only 2 districts in Warren County to receive this special designation, and this is our 6th year in a row. Schools from across the nation applied for this award and are judged on their course offerings, community support, district funding, class enrollment, and many other factors. This past school year, a special focus of the award was based on the district's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Kings is proud of the hard work our music staff members put into making sure that our students were able to continue creating music while adhering to new health safety protocols and innovating new ways of sharing their music with the community. The Kings Local School District is proud of our 12 music educators and their commitment to excellence, and thank them for making Kings a best community for music education.
So we just want to recognize all of our tremendous music staff, educators and students that participate in so many of our programs. And we want to thank them for their commitment to excellence and their continued work with all of our students. So we've won, our programs are being recognized locally, regionally, nationally. We're really proud of the work that they do every day. So on behalf of our staff and Board of Education, I just want to thank all of our music educators in our district for the great work they do each and every day.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sears.
No problem. So now to the transportation,
Sir.
the main event. So first of all, as we get started this evening, our plan, we're going to talk through just some of the transportation information that we've walked through the last few months with the Board of Education in our community, and that'll lead to a later conversation. But before I get started, I just want to paint a picture and just kind of set the stage here for some of this conversation. But what we need to recognize, and I think it's really important in our district, is we are in a position where we will have transportation for our students. We are in a position that our community has continued to support the work we do in our district, and we will be transporting our students to school each and every day in the 23-24 school year and beyond. So we're it's an opportunity for us based on community support that we're able to continue to offer a robust transportation department and to enable our kids to get to school each and every day. So we need to recognize that and be thankful with that. The challenge for us moving forward and the task moving forward is what is the most effective and efficient way of navigating transportation moving forward. So as we've outlined, and the board has made it very clear with us as well in communication throughout the fall and the winter, that it is important for us to continue to look for efficiencies within our district. It's important for us to look for the most cost-effective way to do things, but as well as the best way to effectively staff the work that we do every day. So not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom as well. The challenges that we've had in transportation are fairly significant, especially this school year, as we continue to experience staffing challenges. Mr. Lucky has outlined that for over a year now, at minimum over a year, some of the challenges that we've had and all of the things that our folks are doing to try to increase the candidate pool and the staffing levels for what we have. So in that, the proposal that we are going to outline this evening has been based on some significant community feedback. Almost 800 folks completed some level of feedback survey earlier in January. We reached out to the community, asked them to provide their feedback on potential changes to transportation that would improve our staffing levels. It would create efficiency within the transportation department. There would be a cost savings, but the other side of that is there is a change in start times. In order to accomplish any level of savings, we would have to move to let me say this, in order to accomplish some savings and more effective staffing levels, we would need to move from a 2-tiered system to a 2.5 tier. So with that, we've asked community feedback. The Board of Education is engaged in a few months of conversation around this. We've had conversations throughout the community and community meetings as we're looking at long-term financial planning. We've had a lot of conversations around that. So we're at a point now where we would like to bring a proposal to the table for the board to consider this evening. It is noted in the Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations portion of this agenda. So we want to set the stage. Mr. Lucky is going to talk about some details to remind the board and the community kind of where we are currently and what this might look like. We'll take any questions from the Board of Education during this time, and then we'll navigate through the rest of the agenda. And there is an agenda item later on in the agenda for a potential vote for transportation proposal as outlined. So at this point in time, I will turn this over to Mr. Lucky to outline some of the specifics behind the current proposal.
Thank you. Dawn, if you want to flip to that next slide. So you can see number of students that we have currently today has grown since we first started looking at this to find these efficiencies. We've gone from 55 routes to 46 routes with another 100 students on the buses. So we're finding as if the most efficiencies that we can in order to drive that route count down, one, for just efficiency, but two, our ability to staff. If you look at the full-time staff needed from 2020, we were at 55. Today, we need 46. We're currently at 41. So currently, if you remember last week, we were at 42. We talked about the fluidity of the situation with drivers becoming licensed and losing drivers for a myriad of reasons. But we are at 41. So we're currently with our current status, we're 5 drivers short. You'll see down there that we're at 7 daily subs. We were at 6, so we had somebody pass a test. So the end result is the same. So we added a sub, but we lost a regular driver. So if 2 people call off, we're short a driver if more than 2 people call off. So just shows you some options and what it does with each option. So if you look at the current setup, we're 5 drivers short. If we were in a 2.5 model currently, we'd only be 2 drivers short. Dawn, if you wouldn't mind going to that next one. So those are the proposed times. So I can see our current setup and end times, and then our proposed times, moving the high school up a few minutes. And then in that 2.5 tier, Columbia starting later, keeping our elementaries together. Big reasons for that are locations of buildings, centrally located neighborhood elementaries to give us the ability. We looked at multiple scenarios of high school, where it is, flipping the elementaries, just all the different possibilities. And this setup enables the ability to have less staff and also capture some savings with it. This slide here just talks about number of routes that we currently have, the proposal, and what it does financially. We've talked at length. The finances are part of it, but probably the biggest thing to consider is the consistency of service. We continue, we're over 25 occurrences now of students having to stay at buildings, staff having to stay at buildings later in the day because we don't have a bus. So buses will finish their route, come back to the school, pick those kids up. Communication has to happen. There's a lot of moving pieces when you start shifting kids to different buses, different times, and communication. Creates a hardship on everybody involved, staff, families, students. It's painful. That's all I've got for the presentation.
Mr. Lucky. Is there any questions for Mr. Lucky or Mr. Sears?
I had a question, and I think I know the answer, but I just need confirmation. So the reason in 2020, even though we had a few less students, that we needed more drivers is because we've done some efficiencies with the routes. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Our buses are fuller. So we've started doing surveys on, hey, are you going to ride a bus? So we get that feedback back and we route in a different way to capture those non-riders so that we're not routing folks that'll never ride a bus.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Thank you.
One quick question on the shortage. I know I've seen the billboard out that's advertising. Has there been any feedback? Have we gotten any applicants since that's been posted? No, we've gotten a call for that one. We converted 3 from the old position. So our thought is we move it, one new set of eyes, but we have the board for 3 months.
Okay.
I think it's been up for 2 weeks now, maybe 3. So we'll start to hopefully capture some folks on that new route.
Okay.
Any further questions? See to the next agenda item, which is public participation. But we have no public participants this evening. Next on the agenda are the consent approval items for the treasurer, including the fiscal audit, the minutes from last month's work session and regular meeting, tax rate resolution, the underground storage tank fund, financial items, and the public records log. Mr. Morrow, did you have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, a new item since the work session is number 1. Our fiscal audit for last year went live today. I've posted it here and it's also available online. I wanted to point out and give kudos to a few people. So 1, it was a clean audit with no issues. Once again, Kings has quite a long streak of that. Looking back, it looks like a decade from what I can see online. So we're continuing that hard work and good work. And I also wanted to point out that we got the highest achievement in open and transparent government for the 3rd year in a row. That's a relatively new award that the Auditor of State had started to give out. So definitely wanted to point that out as well on top of the clean audit. And I wanted to give kudos to my staff. They do a great job. They work really hard to try to keep everything compliant and keep everything moving and customer service to our staff. And then also to everybody else in the district, secretaries, athletics, anybody who has anything to do with purchasing or handling money. The audit shows that everybody's doing what they need to do and doing a great job at it. So kudos to everybody, but especially my staff.
Absolutely. Second that.
So how many districts win this award for the highest achievement?
I don't know off the top of my head. You have to meet certain metrics to, they look for, I believe it's 7 or 9 different things that does a district do these items. And if you meet enough of those metrics, then you get the award for open and transparent government. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many do enough necessary to get the award.
Any further questions for Mr. Morrow? Actually, I have a question. Could you just refresh me on the storage tank fund? Isn't that's cash or money that we're moving in the general fund because we no longer have the tanks, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we had underground storage tanks for fuel. They were removed. The last one in 2010, and that gets checked annually to make sure there's no issues. And since we've had no issues and we have no tanks, our auditors thought it was appropriate for us to take the money from that fund and move it into our operating funds, but clean up essentially.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Morrow? Would you please call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda items from the treasurer.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow, could you now please call the roll?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Buttfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the consent approval items for the superintendent, Mr. Sears. Have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. This competition, BPA state competition already took place, so we have approved that. Now, students have been afforded the opportunity to participate in the national competition in Anaheim, California at the end of April. We have not received confirmation on who will be attending, if any of our students will, but they've been invited as was outlined during the Ray's presentation. So more to come on that.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Sears? May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda item for the superintendent?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the approval items for the assistant superintendent regarding matters of HR and business operations. We're looking at the personnel items, the King's Kids Summer Camp handbooks for 2023, before and after registration, enrollment and capacity. Were there any questions for Mr. Spinner or Mr. Spinner and Mr. Lucky? Did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Spinner or Mr. Lucky? All right. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items from the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business, specifically items 1 through 4?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. And we have an additional item, as Mr. Sears and Mr. Lucky mentioned previously, under the consent agenda items for the assistant superintendent regarding HR and business. Item number 6 is the transportation proposal to 2.5 tier transportation. I would assume Mr. Sears, Mr. Lucky have nothing further to add, or did we have any questions, additional questions?
I don't have any additional questions. I just would recommend if anybody wants more details to go back to our last week's meeting, because we did talk about it in quite detail at that meeting. And I had all my questions answered then, so I'm good.
Thank you, Mrs. Groff. Any further questions? All right, may I have a motion to approve item number 6 under the consent agenda items for the assistant superintendent concerning HR and business, specifically item 6, the transportation 2.5 tier proposal?
I'll make the motion.
I will second the motion. Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, I see we have no items for the assistant superintendent regarding educational programs. Ms. Martin, Mr. Freeman. Next on the agenda are the items presented by the board. Do we have any further items to present? All right. Next on the agenda is the legislative update. Mr. Skirl.
Thank you, President Belfrom. I don't have anything to present that has been sent to Governor DeWine or nor has been signed by him. But I have included a legislative update. If you read through that, actually our legislation has been very busy this past month. We have at least a dozen new bills were introduced. There were a lot of bills that had been discussed, a lot of activity going on back and forth. So nothing through that. But I do want to note that Mr. Morrow and I were able to attend the state legislative conference this morning up in Columbus. A lot of activity. We got to meet with some legislators. We heard a lot of back and forth. I didn't have time to put together any summary, but at next month's meeting, I'll put together just a few slides, just an overview of what was discussed and some of the highlights from the conference.
Thank you, Mr. Skirl, and thank you and Mr. Morrow for attending the conference today. I'm going to trumpet them, but I think my colleagues, administrators will agree. These are the leaders of the district, the leadership here in the room, working hard for this community. And there's a lot of it that, we just don't necessarily see, but there's a lot of hard work and effort that goes on. So appreciate you both taking the time to do that today and get some new learnings and have an opportunity to represent Kings up in Columbus.
There was a lot of conversation around school funding, so definitely a hot issue for us.
Thank you for going.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is the Student Achievement Liaison update. Mrs. Phillips.
I sent out to all of you the Ohio School Board's success little flyer that they send out monthly, and it was highlighting Kings Local, Warren County. That our high school offers a popular employability elective course that teaches students soft skills and introduces them to different career pathways. Teacher is Mr. Goldie, and he said that when he started, he had 25 students, and now there's an employability course 1 and 2, and he has 160 students. The junior high supports building positive behaviors. They do this through PAC, which is Pride, Attitude, Commitment, Together. One example of that was that recently the junior high held a walk of champions for track and field, ski club, softball, band, ensemble, orchestra, drama club, and science Olympiad. So congratulations to all of the students that were able to walk in the through the building with the high school drum line leading the way. And they were showing their pride, their attitude, their commitment, and they were definitely together. So that was a nice way of making those positive relationships, especially at the junior high. The high school drawing students created 60 portraits for orphans in India, and they made those portraits just by looking at the orphan's picture. And the portraits will be delivered at the end of this month, so in just a couple of days. And the drawing students are hoping that they will receive a video back showing the boys and girls as they get to open their portrait and see them. So it's definitely building a bond regardless of differences and regardless of where in the world they might be. So that was a wonderful opportunity. JF Burns staff and students were thrilled. They had a performance by the Firecrackers. And so it was an opportunity for the Firecrackers to be role models. They were sharing what hard work and determination can create, and definitely had a lot of the students, the elementary students, saying to themselves, I want to do that. So that was a wonderful opportunity for both. And someone tweeted out that the orchestra performed awesome today. It was a huge musical learning experience, and we think he, band teacher, was impressed. Students really learned how to better listen to each other to create music together. Just want to say, Power 5, they were able to communicate, problem solve, think critically about it, collaborate with each other, and the proof was in the great performance during practice. Back in the 50s, I learned to read by sight. When I first started teaching in the 70s, I taught using the very simple consonant, vowel, consonant, can, man, fan type method. Then towards the end of the year, especially for first grade, I was able to add that silent E, like made, game. And today's first grade is so much different. In Abby's class, students are learning to divide between vowels. Think of the word pioneer, meteor, video, leotard. And I'm talking first graders. Never in my teaching history was I thinking of doing anything like that with first graders, but definitely it's more individualized. It's a way to make sure that students have the tools to learn and that it's done at their own rate and what they're ready to read next. Across the district, third graders were celebrating World's Down Syndrome Day with guest readers and activities to help the students understand the challenges that some students face on a daily basis. In closing on the report, want to mention that Mr. Sears did walkthroughs at KME, and he tweeted high levels of student engagement, general excitement for learning, impressive instructional design, leading to high levels of learning for students. So that's another example of the behind the scenes work, Mr. Belfram, that you were talking about. So may not see him, but he's out and about.
Can I clarify that, Mrs. Phillips?
Absolutely.
Yes. Our entire team goes out and visits classrooms every Tuesday. So I tweeted a summary of our debriefing conversation, but the entire central office team every Tuesday visits classrooms in our buildings, and we love to celebrate the great things that are happening. So I appreciate the credit, but it really is a benefit. Our entire team does that. So thank you.
Questions for Mrs. Phillips? And we'd welcome an invite on those Tuesdays. I mean, I know I've never got one. Just saying. I was just joking. Mr. Sears. Next on the agenda, may I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting before I get myself in trouble?
I will make that motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfram,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned. Everyone have a fantastic evening.